Cool.
Right.
Max Lamb, how you doing, man?
Dan Mitchell, I'm good. Thank you.
How's it feel being back in the Desa, and how have things changed? Like, what's your thoughts coming back after a couple of years?
Yeah, it's been 2 years and a month since I was here last August 2022. When I was here with the family. Spent 3 weeks here at that time, and on this occasion only 10 days. But it's amazing being back. There's a lot of life and energy at the Desa. Things like studios, Potato Head Studios, have really kind of grown, and all the plants have grown, and they've become kind of fuller and fresher, and there's more people staying here, and there's a ton of energy. The courtyard is full of art, whereas it was waiting for art, I think, when I was here 2 years ago. Yeah, everybody's like really grown into the place. All the staff are amazing. The smiles are welcoming, and beautiful white teeth like beaming at you every morning and lunchtime and evening, and it's like just the smiles constantly, which is always very welcoming.
Yeah, well, it's good to have you back, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you've been a big part of the journey, and I think it was 2017 when I first emailed you and was like, Max, we're doing this project, and you immediately replied, and then 2018, you came over, and we were building the hotel, building the studios, and not only did we need furniture that fit in what we were doing, but we were on a journey of zero waste, exploring material, what could we do with our plastic, what could we do with the natural abundance of material we have here. And we thought, Max will be the perfect person with your material approach, with your level of craftsmanship, the sort of modern craft approach. And really it wasn't just, okay, let's make some furniture, but it was like, how can we approach this and with a philosophy, and we need somebody who can really kind of showcase and guide us. And I think you've been the perfect person. So maybe we can talk a little bit about how the project kicked off. There was the kind of element of the plastic with us recycling, and that zero waste mission, and then of course there was the kind of using the natural material around us. And it'll be, I guess when we send you that brief, it would be great to really talk through that and your first impressions of Bali and the materials and the sort of issues and opportunities that exist here.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the brief then that you sent in 2017, and for when I came out in 2018, was quite specific and quite focused, but also quite open-ended. You were in the middle of building the second hotel on the Desa. At that point, can't remember what it was called. It changed names a few times. It eventually became Studios. But you were building a 157-room hotel, and you already had the existing hotel, which was called Katamama at the time. So I got to stay here. It was my first trip to Bali at that point, and experience not only Balinese culture, but also Potato Head culture. The culture of Potato Head and this kind of very forward-thinking, pioneering kind of mentality for hospitality. The brief was to design products for the rooms and products for the hotel, the new hotel, things that guests will be sitting on, drinking out of. It was an exercise in exploring the Balinese landscape and identifying local crafts, local processes, local materials, the most positively environmentally impactful way, making more stuff. Like ultimately it's like creating more things. So how can we do that in the most kind of beautiful way? Those first couple of trips that I had here were just like mind-blowing, like eye-opening kind of experiences to what Bali can offer. Any creative mind, somebody who has ideas to an ambition to want to make things, because everywhere you go, on every street, you'll see people making things. Like literally, from bits of furniture to kind of beautiful woven kind of rattan objects. Some of it is kind of more ceremonial for the part of the sort of the Balinese Hindu culture, just to kind of identify the fact that kind of hands still work in Bali was a really lovely thing, and reassuring thing that humanity still has it. At least they do here in Bali. And so it was my goal to kind of try and like really celebrate that as much as possible in the products that I designed for the Desa.
Yeah, we are very lucky with the level of craftsmanship that still exists here, and it's very much interwoven in a daily life. I mean, as you said, it's ceremonial. People wake up in the morning, they have a banana leaf, they make their offering for the gods, and they put it out there, and that's a ritual that happens every day.
Yeah,
basket weaving, all these, making material, textile. It's all part of the kind of daily life here, and we're definitely lucky to have that. And I mean, do you consider yourself a craftsmanship? I mean, a craftsman, modern craftsman, or how would you? Because for me, it's like you're an artist, you're a designer, you're a craftsman. It's hard to really pinpoint exactly what you do. But I guess you're a craftsman, But I'm
a craftsman
for sure. Yeah,
I'm a maker. I don't know. I'm definitely modern. I like to think I am. I'm contemporary at the very least. I'm certainly not a master, master craftsman by any stretch of the imagination, and I don't, because I don't specialise in any particular craft. But my hands do work also, and my brain works through my hands. So when I'm creating, when I'm designing a new product, it nearly always begins with playing with the material. It begins with taking it in my hands and understanding its properties, its physical properties. Of course, yes, its aesthetic properties as well, but it's more to do with what it can do, how it can be transformed. And again, this kind of, keep using the word celebrate, the celebration of those properties and the celebration of that material. It's what master crafts people do. They celebrate the material. They do what the material allows to be done to it, and to get the absolute most. I mean, the transformation of a piece of material, from a banana leaf into this offering, or a piece of rattan into a basket, or a teak tree into incredible furniture. It takes time, and in many cases a lifelong dedication to it. I dedicate my life to design and creativity, but I don't dedicate myself to a material. And I think here in Bali, what I found most inspiring was just, you have these kind of individuals, but also often communities of families who are they are the weaving community, or the weaving family. That is what they do, and it's passed down through the generations. And you see the children and the grandparents flanking the father or mother, making those objects. They're all doing it. It's very beautiful to see.
Yeah, it is beautiful. And I guess what you've brought to the project is a very much a modern sensibility, and you've collaborated closely with several craftspeople here in Bali. And how did you find that process because generally things here can be quite traditional, and you're looking at it through your lens, which is very of the future. And how did you find that process of working with people from a completely different walk of life, different way of approaching things, and obviously the results are there to see in the rooms. It's fantastic. But maybe you can just talk us through that process of like how you found that sort of collaboration.
Because the brief was for producing products for the rooms, whether it's a set of ceramics, the teapot and vases, incense diffuser, glassware that we did, the plastic chair, the study chair, the bamboo chair, the teak furniture that's on the balcony, and the teak selected local native material and in abundance, but also because of its long-term durability and weatherability, it's completely the best material for the context. But all of these products sit within a room and within a very contemporary structure for contemporary audience. And so, I guess the challenge was to take these often very traditional crafts and working with makers and craftspeople who are making these more traditional styles, if you like, or types of product using those crafts, and sort of mold and manipulate and guide and try and sort of like dress the process so that it can evolve into a more contemporary kind of outcome. That's actually what I do in my practice, in my workshop in London as well. You know, I'll take traditional processes. I do stonemasonry, which is very kind of ancient, almost, let's say, the first process of man to transform a material into a thing of function. I adopt these very traditional processes in my practice, and of course, just because of who I am and where I am and my position within history in evolution of humankind, I'm in my setting is contemporary always. And so I'm always trying to find that kind of contemporary take on this traditional form and this traditional process and technique. So yeah, that's the art.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of your work. It's those like materials that you have seen, but then designed and crafted in a very unexpected way, a kind of unusual way sometimes. Like, where did that first come from? Your love of material, your approach, I guess, is not. It's quite conventional. It's definitely unique to you. Like, where did that come from? Was it growing up, or how did that all start?
I can't actually say for sure where it comes from. I mean, I had a lucky childhood, born in Cornwall on the southwest coast of the UK, and spent my childhood on the beach. Like, that was my environment, or in the clay quarries just up from my parents' house. Literally, the roads would run white when it rains when I was a kid, because of all of the spoil, the clay that was in the ground. It would run down the hill, down the road in front of me, in front of our house. So, like, I had a very outdoors childhood, and I think just exposure to the outdoors and the physical landscape, the geology and the geography of land, rather than say the urban environment. Like, I don't know when the first time was I visited a city. I can't think like when I kind of really experienced that, because I grew up in the countryside, like on the edge of a small town in like one of the most remotest counties of England. That is obviously a significant part of it. I think I was like less than 2 days old when I was on the beach for the first time, you know. And then probably some children in London, say, who won't have been to a beach, and they're 14 years old, and they might not have even been to a beach and touched sand, you know. But I grew up on that. But they would have done loads of other things, and so their understanding of the world and their kind of skill set and abilities are very different. I probably was a very unstreetwise kid. My first big city experience was Newcastle. You know, like, that was my first big city experience, like living away from home, and like went to Newcastle. That's
where you studied?
That's where I studied, yeah. That was
Northumbria or Newcastle University?
Northumbria.
Yeah.
Okay. Poly kid.
Polytechnic, yeah. That's what I used to skateboard there.
Yeah, it was good.
Skateboard, yeah.
It was good skateboarding.
Spent a lot of time there when I was like 12, 13, you know.
Yeah.
I'm probably senior back then, you know.
Yeah, it might have been.
He was older than me, so.
Yeah, I was there skateboarding. Yeah, so kind of that early childhood on the beach. And then, you know, there's that. And then I also had my grandpa, who was a farmer until very recently. He's 90 very nearly next week or 2 weeks' time is 99.
99. Wow.
He's going to be 99, but he was living on a farm, farming up in Yorkshire, and so got to travel the country from Cornwall to Yorkshire, and like holidays, summer holidays, winter holidays, would go and spend up on the farm. And a farm just surrounded by fields and machinery, and it wasn't animals, it was all crops. It was an arable farm, but having again more space, more countryside, but a different climate, a different landscape, a different palette of materials in front of me, and just tinkering like as a small boy and following my grandpa's footsteps into the tractor. And I mean, I was driving tractors before I was 10, like helping him on the farm, and it was basically like my summer job. So rather than being a paper boy, I was a farm labourer from a young boy. Every summer, that's what I would go and do. I'd go and spend on the farm. And he was always a tinkerer himself, and changing, like knocking down and rebuilding old farm buildings, reappropriating them, and turned a wagon shed, like an old wagon shed that was like disused, brick and tile, a wagon shed, converted it into a house that he now lives in. So he moved out of the farmhouse and he was living in a bungalow, which is more appropriate for him as he got older. But I basically kind of side by side worked with him to build that whole project and do all of the trades, the first fix for all the wiring, the construction of all of the timber framing and the plasterboarding and the plastering, the tiling, literally everything, every single possible trade. And he's teaching me how to do it, kind of, or his bricky, Howard, his name was, like he would be teaching me how to do it. It's like first-hand experience as a teenager, and my hands developed dexterity and skill, and my brain developed this understanding of how materials can be transformed and turned into things. It's like from powdered cement and sand and water, you can make something like rock, and you can, if you get those consistencies just right, you can make it into a paste that you can sculpt, and you use as a glue to kind of the carving or the cutting of the wood and the timber framing, to cutting holes in plasterboard for running wiring. And I don't know, just like, it seems kind of like so abstract, but I do think that experience, or those experiences kind of like combined, taught me how to design, and certainly taught me how to make.
Right, so there's an element of being in nature, growing up, exposed to all these raw earthly materials, and then you essentially got your hands dirty in the farm and got surrounded by, you started making things, and that then led to your love of design, or you just got interested in it and went to study that? How did you know you wanted to be a designer from that?
That would have just been a gradual thing. Like I sort of fell into it. It was certainly where I had the most interest at school. Like, then you kind of put school into the equation, and education, and I hated school. Like, I just didn't. I liked the playground. I liked playing basketball with my friends, but I like PE. Like, I liked the kind of the sports side of school. I just didn't like school otherwise. And I liked art, and I liked DT, or design and technology, like those more vocational, artistic, body, like physical, if you think about it. Like, it's not crunching numbers or writing, it's creative, it's more gestural, like design and DT. I'm just thinking back to all the different little knickknacks that we'd be asked to design and make in DT, like little boxes out of wood, or I remember making a little wooden boat, just like 3 pieces of wood stacked onto, or two planks of wood, one shaped, one a little block, and then one a rod of dowel, to make a very sort of archetypal ship. I don't know, maybe I was like 10 or 11 years old, like first year at secondary school. Those are the things that I was more comfortable doing at school and enjoyed doing at school, and I guess it was just like a progression when it came to doing sort of exams at school. Those are the ones that I excelled in, and all the others I did okay in, and then to go to high school or college, had to make a decision, what do I want to study? Well, I wanted to study the things that I was better at, and the things I was better at were sport, art and design, and I studied those subjects, and I became better at those, and all those other all those other subjects kind of fell by the wayside. So I almost like pigeonholed myself. I ended up being a designer. That's just how it happened. And I did want to go to university, and I did want to study and like really kind of develop those like mental tools for creating, not just because I could have done an apprenticeship, and that's like another like brilliantly valid way of like establishing oneself in the industry, but I didn't want just vocational experience or practical experience. I also wanted doing something for somebody else. I also wanted the freedom to create what I wanted to create, and that's what being in, going to university is, say. I went to Northumbria University, studied 3D design, and then after that went to the Royal College of Art and studied design products. But, that's a master's course where you have 2 years of doing kind of what you want. There is no right or wrong answer. There is no formula. There is no curriculum even. You are there to develop your future, and to have that freedom to create what I wanted to create was a massive privilege.
Yeah, amazing. And here we are today, 2024. How do you feel maybe the role of a designer has sort of changed or evolved since you first began? I guess like now, especially what we're doing here, we're really facing environmental challenges, and using design as a bit of a vehicle for change, with both local materials, organic materials, and of course the waste issues. You have, I think by default, have been integrating this into your practice since the beginning. But how do you see that playing out, like within the design world now, where we're just making tons of stuff, big factories? Obviously, there's different levels and different styles of design. But where do you see things are going? And what is the role of the designer in trying to sort of help shape things for the better versus just making tons of stuff that's going to end up in landfills?
Yeah, the role of a designer is to look and be sympathetic, like observe, identify. As a designer, unfortunately, designers, as are artists, as are any creative person who wants to make something, whether physical or audible, you generate something, like by default we all have egos. We all think or like to think or hope that we can make something that's valid. So you've got to kind of like rein that in. I think to be a good creator, and in my case a good designer, I have to kind of rein in the ego and think that not everything that I touch turns to gold or is right. There are many ways of getting to the end goal, and it's a case of looking, observing, and being sympathetic, and letting what you observe kind of guide the process as well. So like new technologies are coming on the market all the time. Science is kind of creating these new wonderful materials. Do we need to use them? Well, we can use them. They're now part of our library of possibilities. But do we need to use them? Well, yes, if it's appropriate. It's about being sympathetic, making things count, so that they serve a purpose, and and that purpose can be one of kind of absolute function and pragmatism, solving a problem, a medical need, or something more simplistic, like is something to sit on. Like, well, we need another chair. Do we need another chair or another seat? Well, in the context of Potato Head, yes, we did actually need. We needed to create something wholly unique for this environment, and I was tasked with doing that. So yeah, it's really about being kind and thoughtful, I would say. Yeah,
that's a great approach. And in terms of the Bali landscape, you've worked with bamboo, you work with ejuk, which comes from the tree. You work with glass, you work with stone, you work with various different things. How did you approach that? And was it did you find that quite different to the types of natural materials you've been working with in the UK? And how did you, how did that process go? Did you find it quite challenging, or did it open up like different things that you hadn't thought about during the process?
I mean, I always like to think I've got an open mind. So I think before I came here, I did a ton of like online research, but it was somewhat pointless in a way, because you sort of have to just be here, and that's very much a part of the nature of my practice, is that I'm not a virtual thinker. I'm a reality thinker. Like I'm grounded in reality and the reality of possibilities. It's a physical, tangible place, and so coming here was fundamental to the process of developing the collection. And for each of those different materials that I was identifying, in fact, only a few really did I end up, the stuff that I did online, like the online research, very little did I end up applying to the final collection of pieces. Because it was only once I was here and we started touring around, and we were doing that together back in 2018 and 2019, came 2 or 3 times over those 2 years. And it wasn't necessarily what we saw when we got to the destination, because we'd already planned what our destination was. It was what I saw on the way to the destination.
Yeah, I remember that. You're like, stop here, like, look at that rock.
Yeah, stop. What is that?
What's that red rock?
What's that yellow rock? What's that black rock? Yeah, I have those kind of eyes and that kind of curiosity that I just like to travel and move and look and observe, and then try and find a way of working with what I see. And that kept on happening whilst we were...
Yeah, because the lamps that we have now, which is the rock with the bamboo, they were just offcuts from the... Yeah. Kind of tile industry or whatever it was. People were making tiles from
well,
rocks, and you spotted the little offcut stumps at the end, and you grabbed those, which is a great sort of, I guess, resourcefulness and a way to approach things. So that's left over. It's a great material. What could we do with it? It just gets discarded.
Yeah, absolutely. And the design of a product, the design of an object that functions, evolving from naturally from that process of observing. Like I didn't design the lamp and then seek material and seek a maker or seek a process. It was designed as a consequence to what I had seen and observed. It was reactive. It was a reactive design approach. I'm familiar with wood, I'm familiar with clay, I'm familiar with glass. Those are 3 materials that I worked with to design some of the pieces for the Desa. Ijuk was a material that I'd never heard of, I'd never seen before, didn't know existed. And my sort of discovery of that was just from being here and driving around, and we were on our way to one factory, one craftsperson, their place of work, and seeing all of the temples here, and seeing that these kind of beautiful temple structures, all made out of like hard rock, beautifully carved, like super geometric, very patterned, but then with these like fluffy, soft, hairy hats on them. The roofs were all made out of this fibre, and I was, what is that fibre? It's amazing. It looks like hair, like it really does look like hair. And you learned that it's called ijuk, and it's a fibre that grows off a particular species of tree. I can't remember the name of the tree now. Maybe it's the ijuk tree, but learned that obviously because of the temple, the sheer number of temples in every single badung in Bali, they've got their own temple and shrine, and they've all got their own roofs made out of ijuk. So it's a prolific material. It's absolutely everywhere, and I just thought it had such a human quality to it that it would be lovely to incorporate into the rooms and into a product into one of the rooms. And so that was the sort of the catalyst for the lamps, which then sat on it's like this little roof, an ijuk roof or hat or shade, sitting on a bamboo pole, which then needed ballast, and that ballast was a lump of an offcut of a lump of volcanic black Balinese rock as the base.
Yeah,
and in fact, the base itself that was again like driving around and seeing these intricate grooves on these stone temples. The stones themselves are kind of very beautiful. They've got this incredible kind of porous quality to them, and you only ever see it in its cut form, because it's they're little blocks that are made to then stack together to make these temples. And I was curious, I was really excited, because there's just so many of them. And then you see some of the shops that are selling the temples, and then you see some of the shops that are selling just the stones. But it took, I don't know if it was on the first trip that I came or the second trip, but I was like so keen to find who is it that's making these, because it must be made locally. And that's the funny thing, like suddenly we obviously where that's the stone village, and we saw stone mason after stone mason after stone mason, everybody just working their magic into these volcanic rocks, and that was, I have to do something with that. And it was this kind of like nice marrying of the stone and the ijuk, which is the temple, as an object.
Yeah, Bali's like that. You see these little villages, and they're very specialist. So it's like, they do bricks, they do tiles, they'll do ijuk, they'll do ceramic or whatever. So you see that quite a bit. You're carving. Yeah. You have like Mas, our village up in Ubud, which specialises in specific type of carving, right? Yeah. Which is really intricate and beautiful. And yeah, it's still... Is
that on the limestone? Is that like it's like a soft beige coloured stone?
Or the carving, or the
carving.
Well, they do it a lot in wood.
On wood.
But they do it in stone as well.
Yeah.
But wood is you see, quite commonly used.
Yeah, because that's something I've only just seen on this particular trip, driving around or noticing, observing these slabs of stone. And I think they might even be a cast material, but I imagine originally they would have been carving directly into a slab of sandstone or limestone, a very soft stone.
What kind of pattern are they using in it? I'm trying to think which one.
All kinds of decorative, like both geometric and figurative reliefs. They're quite thin. They're only about 5-6 centimeters thick. Panels that are about 60 by 40 centimeters, and they're carving really intricate patterns into the material.
Nice.
Very beautiful.
Nice to check those out.
Yeah.
Another nice thing I thought about when we were going through the process was as you were sort of designing the study chair, you were trying to create zero waste within the design of the chair. And what was really beautiful thing that came out of it was the sort of chair that you designed, and what was left of it almost informed the other items that needed to be made. So there was like a menu. We were making glasses with the little tops, and you were sort of, okay, that's the offcut here, that's the menu, that's the coaster. So from one sheet of plastic, you not only got a chair, but we got a full suite of other objects as well. And I found that, like, for me personally, I learned so much from that. Yeah. And even the way you taught us how to make the chair. Okay, let's use welding rod and not glue. All these different things. And I think because of that, there's been a real movement within Indonesia now, people making plastic chairs,
Right.
Including myself. Like a bunch of people are doing it. It's fantastic, and I feel like that little spark of, okay, let's use that welding rod, or let's do that. It's really kind of, I would say, kicked off a cool sort of movement of recycling the plastic. Indonesia.
It's good to
definitely been quite inspiring. But the way that you kind of shape that within your design to make sure that we've got a suite of objects from one chair, I found that very, very fascinating. And
it was necessary, actually, because there's me struggling to design a chair which is both a functional, practical, ergonomically correct chair out of a sheet of material which is made in a particular size. So it was a standard format at that time. I can't remember whether it was 1 meter by 2 meters or 1200 by 1.2 by 2.4. But nonetheless, the size of the sheet of material existed. Couldn't deviate from that. That was the size of the material, and that's what we were getting. This was before Potato Head went and built a factory here and the whole kind of set of equipment. That wasn't really even on the cards at that point. I mean, this is like how far Potato Head have come in terms of ambition for achieving zero waste. Well, you shouldn't be buying kind of any material in, which we had to at that time because the facility wasn't here. The Potato Head Industries wasn't established at that point, whereas now it is. So we were buying this standard sheet of material, and that was my building block. That was my starting point. I had to get as many chairs. It was expensive material still. It's expensive. It's value. Let's talk about expense. It's valuable material. Valuable, intrinsically valuable. It's made of plastic. Okay, so we have to do it justice. We have to use every single little bit of it because it's special. And so I have to be as economical as possible. I have to use as much of it as possible, but without just throwing all the material into the object. It's also about being kind of sparing and thoughtful and like designing a beautiful object as well. I mean, is also a fundamental part of it. Because if you design something that's both functional and beautiful, people will treasure it. They will look after it, they will value it, and it will remain valuable forevermore, hopefully. Actually, very hard taking a big sheet of material, cutting it up into little pieces, and turning it into a beautiful functional object without there being waste. It's just, you take a flat thing and you turn it into a three-dimensional thing, and all sorts of offcuts end up happening in the process. Otherwise, you would literally just end up with a box, right? You'd have a cube, and you can sit on that cube, and that's okay. That could be the piece. It could just be a cube. But I wanted to add another level of human quality and another level of beauty to the object. So therefore, shape beyond the geometric comes into it. You're left with offcuts. So I was like, well, okay, how can I design those offcuts? So I'm not just now designing the positive, the chair, or the parts of the chair. I'm also designing the negative, all this, like the negative part, the offcuts, and thankfully, Potato Head gave me a list of possibles. These are all the kind of artifacts that hotel rooms need in order to function, in order to kind of make their guests comfortable. So, okay, well, let's go through these. And we were designing the glassware at the time, like you say. So every single day, and I'd identified from staying at Katamama that every day offerings were made to each of the hotel guests in beautiful kind of baked goods in this glass jar with a wooden lid. It's like, well, we're making a new hotel now, and we could use wood, but we have an alternative now. We have plastic, this recycled plastic. That could be the lid for the jar. So that's great. This gives me a nice round shape. Well, that round shape can give me a curve. And those curves, those kind of other objects really helped me design what ended up being a better chair for it.
Yeah. I think using the waste, what little waste was left, as the welding rod, to kind of bring instead of using adhesive. Oh, that was quite genius,
Yeah,
it together with the plastic waste that came from the chair.
Yeah. Thought about mechanical fixings for it, and like the problem with this type of plastic actually is that it's very difficult to join together using traditional joinery, and it's certainly not like wood. You can't glue it. It has no porosity or absorbency. You can't glue it, and you can use epoxies, and they're just like horrible things. And with every single one of those processes, you have to add something else. You have to add a foreign object, and as soon as you add that foreign material or that foreign object, it suddenly becomes not pure. And I like pure. I like singular materials, and so learning what would glue or fix to the plastic was the question. That was the big question. And I was like, well, it obviously sticks to itself because here it is. It's a panel. It's a sheet of material. It obviously sticks to itself. How do you stick it to itself? Well, they use heat in production. You get it to a certain point, the material melts, and then it glues itself together naturally. It was like, well, that's what we have to do then. We have to kind of glue it under heat. So and it was a discovery for me, actually, kind of like digging deep into kind of the research into the material and its properties, that welding would be a technique, but like plastic welding, not metal welding, and using a filler rod. But again, I didn't want to add anything virgin, any new material. It all had to be from the same supply. And because we were buying these kind of full sheets, and each of the sheets, when they arrive hot off the press, they've got like a waney edge, like a rough edge, which need trimming. And so those trimmings, again, like in production, like as you've got here, like literally behind me, in the factory, in the workshop, you've got you're granulating the plastic, you're pressing the plastic, you're then CNCing the plastic. It's all in one space. So all of the swarf from the CNCing, all of the offcuts from the CNCing, all of the extra bits and bobs, the stuff that's not the kind of the finished product, that goes straight back into the granulator and can go straight back into the pressing. You know, it's that kind of this kind of closed loop system, which is so important when you're talking about zero waste. But you know, we received these sheets. We had to cut this material off. What do we do with it? Well, we also need to join all the panels together. So we need to work, like it all just works together. But it's about looking, observing, and realizing what opportunities lay in front.
Yeah, that's great. It's a truly zero waste product.
Yeah.
And so obviously the furniture's in the rooms. A big question we get of people is like, can I buy the chair? Can I buy the lamp or whatever? And that's something we have been developing. It's in the works. So how's that shaping up? Because we are now looking at the wasted collection, which you will be designing and sort of creatively directing. How's the process of that going? Because you're expanding the range slightly. I mean, some of the existing things like the study chair will be made available to purchase. Mm-hmm. And how are you approaching the collection versus the in-room chairs and furnishings?
Well, we learned a lot from designing and making all of the products for Potato Head Studios. I mean, if you think like what we did, we designed, developed, produced, I think there were 14 individual objects that I designed and made, including 3 chairs, a study chair out of plastic, a teak balcony chair, and the bamboo chair. The bamboo lounge chair, the ceramic collection, the glass collection, the other plastic accessories, the natural dyed quilted blanket or throw that goes on the bamboo chair that also doubles up as a throw or a blanket or a yoga mat, for example. All of those things were designed, developed, and produced in the space of 2 years, which is kind of crazy. But we were able to do it because it's possible in Bali. They were all designed for the rooms. They're kind of static objects, let's say. They're designed for the rooms. They're designed to live in the rooms. And they were designed like that accordingly and detailed like that accordingly. The study chair is a good example, the plastic study chair, because that was welded together, and there has been a lot of interest in the chair, and there's a lot of guests that would like to go home with their chair, but it's just not possible having this kind of big bulky chair kind of all welded. And also Potato Head haven't been in a position to offer that as a kind of a retail thing. The idea for Wasted, the collection, this kind of brand, and this collection of designs, is to allow hotel guests initially, but also beyond that, customers anywhere in the world, essentially, to be able to take those things home. And the study chair, the plastic study chair, has been like was one of like the first pieces that I started thinking about how do we now kind of take that into a more kind of retail environment. And it has meant that I decided, it needs to be a flat pack object. You buy it flat, you receive it, or you take it home flat, and then you assemble it at home when you receive it or get it home. and that's been a big technical challenge actually, and we've gone through so many different iterations, and like your kind of design team here and the makers Dewa and Iwan, have both like between themselves like made so many different iterations, trying to like really get the formula right, and then in the last 2 years since you brought me kind of back into the picture to start like really developing the wasted collection, that's when I've like focused my energy on that. And the chair I think still is like fundamentally retains the same DNA, but we've had to scale it up a little bit. We're using 12mm thick panels versus 10 as we did originally for the original chair, and we're CNC cutting it with a lot more detailing and these like tongue and groove joints and counterboard threaded inserts that allow the chair to be assembled and disassembled pretty much infinitely. And I've been making prototypes in my workshop in London, and you've been making prototypes here at the Desa in Bali, and we're pretty much on to what I think now is the final iteration. We're going to see the final iteration just very shortly. Yeah, it's super exciting. That's like an example of how the product has evolved into the Wasted collection. And then we've been looking at new things as well. Like we didn't want to have a collection of 20 objects. It's just going to be a very small collection of pieces that represent the roots and the DNA of both Bali and fundamentally Potato Head, and allow anybody to have a little piece of it in their homes.
Amazing. Well, I think early 2025 that will be available, so we look forward to getting our hands on that. So yeah, Max, thank you so much. It's been great to connect again, and hopefully you can enjoy yourself after a few rough days.
Thank you. Yeah, my flight's at 9 tomorrow. And
squeeze a few more workshop trips in. But
thank
great
you.
to see you, man. And thank you so much. You're a big part of the family, and really grateful for all that you've done for us and inspiring us here to make things better, and look forward to the future.
Thank you for having me, and giving me this platform as well.
Awesome. Thanks,
Thank you.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.